Welcome to The Artistry Creates the World. I am with Professor Margaret Stevens. Professor Stevens, thank you so much for coming through, visiting Artistry Creates the World. You have your book in your hand. Please show us. I met Professor in 2015. I remember she came through, I think you had an all-white military park, and of course you were with the kids, you were doing the education thing, and you said, "Hey brother," and I was like, "Wow, look at this sister," she said. I was like, "Look at this sister here, this is so cool," and you educated the kids that they spoke. And I've seen you around, you just stay busy, and you were recently working up with the street team as an educator. Talk about just where you are. I know that takes a lot of time, but just talk about the whole creative element in you as an educator. If you can, it's your profession. You can answer those.
Well, I guess the short answer is I've finished my first book, which was a dissertation. It was my thesis for my PhD, and I turned it into a book. And so I'm at the point now as a teacher slash historian where I just want to sort of do certain personal things. I want to get my family life in order and get that aspect sort of launched on a personal level. And then I have a second project that I'm working on, which is a local history about the history of Newark. This first book is about the Caribbean and black workers in the Caribbean, connected to the communist movement in the 1920s and 30s. It's a history a lot of people don't know about. A lot of the names that we've heard of coming out of the Caribbean and even the United States, like we've heard of Toussaint Louverture, we've heard of, and in the more recent period, some people have heard of Walter Rodney or Norman Manley, Michael Manley out of Jamaica, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro out of Cuba. A lot of these folks were influenced by an earlier period, which was actually a more revolutionary period in 1920s and 30s. So where a lot of things were won and accomplished by people who were written out of history because they're so radical. So my book was meant to uncover a lot of that and just teach people about what it actually takes to make humanity progress forward. What are the sacrifices that actually have to be made? What are the types of struggles and issues people have to be willing to confront and face around racism and colonialism, all coming from capitalism. So that was the first book. So yeah, before I get the second book done, I just wanted to get personal things sort of figured out, because you can keep work. There's always more work to do. We were just talking about.
Yes, no matter where you go.
No matter where you go, it follows you.
You're going to Puerto Rico, and I asked you.
Yeah, so next week, which is, I'm taking a group of young people in Puerto Rico.
Nice.
It's similar to, you referenced two things. The first thing when we first met in the park, I guess, was something called the Leadership Boot Camp.
Mm-hmm. That's what it was,
So I used to do a program called the Leadership Boot Camp
Brought a
with
smile
young
on
people.
your face.
And then a couple years later, the mayor of Newark got started a program called the Newark Street Academy, which was somewhat similar to the Leadership Boot Camp, but it was a year-round program for, and it was a slightly different demographic. The Leadership Boot Camp was with young people coming from my college right here, Essex County, and then it branched into young people in Newark, and I just sort of did a 3-week leadership development program. But these young people weren't really in trouble with the law yet. They still sort of were, they weren't disconnected from the system, from the status quo. They were somewhat following the rules. The kids from the leadership, from the Newark Street Academy, were the ones who just sort of middle finger to the world. They were the ones who really rejected high school, rejected a lot. This new thing I'm doing at Puerto Rico Brigade is not either, really. It's folks, young people and older people, some older than me, people, some professors, some students from in and around Essex County College. We're also going with a group from New York, but this is more so the ones who've gravitated to the radical politics. So basically what I'm doing, honestly, is reliving my book. So my book is about how 100 years ago, radicals from New York who are really interested in the Caribbean and doing all this organizing with workers in the Caribbean, and that's basically what I'm doing now. So we're going to Puerto Rico because of the hurricane last year. So we're going out there, see how we did disaster relief at the college. So this poster right here, earlier this year, I organized like a disaster relief thing here at the school for people to donate items and stuff. You can kind of see here, donate like a list of items for the hurricane. And so, but I wanted to do more than that. So we're actually physically going to take a group out there instead of just sending off some donations. So I think the creative process for me is what we call praxis-based and practice-based.
See the professor, she just no, that's excellent. That was my next question. I couldn't even get it out.
Yeah, yes. The creative process is praxis-based, and praxis means theory and practice. It means the amalgamation of theory and practice. So any creative process for me, whether it's writing a book or giving a lecture, it always comes down to theory and practice. Like what are the different ideas that I'm using to go into that work, and then what are the actual applications of that in the real world today. And then it's the flip side. Sometimes it's like, even when I was working on my first book, what are the things I already knew as an organizer and a radical about radicalism that I could look for in history, and then find them in history, and then yeah, so it goes back and forth, theory and practice.
So I wanted to ask you, and I love that because I know I can build off your energy. So your book is a catalyst. The creative process of writing was a catalyst for you to go where you're at now. Was there something that was creative in historically, that was the catalyst to the radical movement? Could you point to something like that? Or could it even be that spiritual element in those indigenous communities? And I'm trying to force feed it, but
it was a lot of things. I mean, the main creative process was a destructive process. It was World War I. So World War I was just so many, 12 million, 15 million people died in World War I. So many folks were pulled in from the Caribbean, from all over the world to go fight in Europe, in different parts of the world, as the different European and American imperialists were expanding their tentacles around the world and, trying to grab resources from each other. And so in the process, they fought each other, and that's what World War I was. And so out of that mess came the Russian Revolution, and the Russian Revolution Russia was one of the imperialist countries involved in World War I, and so inside of Russia, the workers just decided to stop fighting in the war for the imperialists, and they just decided to take over the country and fight for workers, to take control, workers' power. So the Russian Revolution was a catalyst for workers all over the world to start organizing and fighting, protesting. So workers across the Caribbean, that's part of what my book is about. Workers all over West Indies, women picking bananas, just stop loading bananas onto the crates to go overseas. So yes, I would say that a creative process of revolution, of building a workers' country out of Russia, which was itself built out of a destructive process of World War I, led to a new creative process.
That's all right. No, I get excited because I'm learning so much. So that's part of what
to
hear
the book
that
is about.
Historically, you see, and that's why I do this channel, so we can like pull those pieces together. But at the core of it, it's today. It's your writing that is like
bringing it back.
Yes.
Well, people have to read it. I mean, it's dense, it's thick. Like you start reading it, and it's like, whoa, I need a break. It's one of those, because you see the way I speak. But it's legible. You can follow, or you can read chapters. Like there's a chapter about Haiti, there's a chapter about Cuba, a chapter about Puerto Rico.
Thank you so much. Where can people reach you on in cyberspace?
I'm not out there, but you can find the book if you Google my name. This is it. This is my name. Margaret Stevens. So if you put that in the Google or Amazon, it'll pop up. The book will pop right up on Amazon.
Very good. Oh, thank you so much. Wow. So we out. Enjoy your trip.
Thank you.
Come back.
in one
success
piece.
on your next project. Well, you're gonna be all right. You're gonna come back stronger.
Yeah, hope
All right.
so. Thank
We out,
you.
y'all. Peace.